So, Carissa, thank you so much for being with us today, all the way from Australia, where it is some ungodly hour. I so
Yes.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. Yes, it is an international COVID saga, but I'm happy to be here at any time.
Excellent. So I want to tell everyone about Carissa, who's joining us today. Carissa is the founder of Silver Lining. Since 2005, Silver Lining has been supporting small business owners building more profitable and sustainable companies. The Silver Lining Action Plan, also called SLAP, is a technology enabled, data driven small business growth program focused on helping small businesses set and then actually hit their financial goals. Based in behavior change science, SLAP has helped over 10,000 small businesses in 25 countries make more money doing what they love. And what we're going to talk about with Carissa today is getting some clarity around what you do, also going deep and understanding your ideal client, which is something that always fascinates me. I always want to know more about my ideal client, understanding your finances and setting your 1 year financial plan, building a 12-month action plan, not a business plan, and living the 3 habits that will ensure you generate the results that you want. So as you can hear, we have a lot to cover.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say we gotta start
I
talking.
know
Yeah.
we got a lot. Exactly. We're not going to waste any time. So thank you so much, Carissa, for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I'm really grateful to be here.
Absolutely. And anyone, if you have any questions, of course, put them in the chat. Ask them here. If you have any later, put them there. We'll find them later. If we have to do, if you have to hear some ask questions. Excuse me. So excited during the replay. But make sure you go ahead and ask questions in the comments, and we will answer as we go along. But Carissa, I will turn it over to you.
Okay. So as you've already said, Elaine, I mean, there's obviously a lot that we could talk about. So what I'm thinking might be helpful is for me to walk through the basic framework, pause, see if there's questions from the audience or Elaine, your questions or thoughts, and then we can go a bit more deeply into each of the steps. But just starting with the background. So I started Silver Lining 15 years ago, as you said, and I started it because I kept meeting all of these amazing business owners who were so passionate what they did, who worked so hard, and yet so many seemed to struggle hitting their financial goals. So many were struggling with sort of feeling busy all the time and never feeling like they had the cash flow that they wanted. And I just always observed that there was such a conundrum and it just seemed wrong to me that so many incredibly talented people weren't sort of living the life of their dreams in every way. They had some things that were better, but some things that were harder. And so I thought to myself back then, I'm more committed to it now. What would the world look like if there was a whole population of people living their dreams, doing what they were called to do, and living with financial security and making money and using that money to contribute to their communities and their families and the economy? So that was the genesis of SLAP. And when I first started, I was 22. I always say that ignorance is bliss. And so I thankfully didn't know what I didn't know. And I knew at least that I needed to go get some more information. And so I started interviewing real business owners from all over the world, asking why it was so hard to grow their business. And this methodology is the outcome of all of those interviews. So essentially, it's based in real feedback from real business owners. And the basic idea of it is that in order for us to grow our business, we need to protect the time and money that we have. And so often when we as business owners are feeling a little bit worried or feeling like we're trying to generate new income or new opportunities, we start throwing spaghetti at the wall. We start selling anything to anyone who will buy it, hoping and praying that, it'll be our next big thing. And what we see from the work that we do is that that's actually really dangerous, that when you start taking your time and money and dispersing it in multiple ways, you're actually decreasing your chance of success at any one thing. And so it's interesting. I was looking at, support is sexy in the corner. I feel like SLAP is like unsexy. It's like the least sexy point of view, because it's like my genuine opinion, which is not sexy, is anyone can hit their goals if we're disciplined and structured and focused. And it's so often the opposite of what we're taught in sort of the culture of entrepreneurship. So
Right.
All of that to be said, these steps that you outlined are number one. In order to really hit our goals, we have to be really clear and really focused. And we call that a SLAP statement, where each of us sort of articulate, this is what I do. This is who I do it for. This is the scale I'm going to do it on. And so for us, for Silver Lining, our slap statement is Silver Lining sells slaps to James on a global scale. That's what we do. We do it all day long, every day, over and over again. We don't do slaps and then 7 other things small businesses need. We are experts in the thing we do. And we don't sell slaps to James and Joe and Sally and Bob and Billy and Greg. We have an ideal client profile. And so we can be relentless in making sure that the time and money that we spend is going to build these core things over and over and over again. So that's go ahead.
No, sorry. So I was just going to ask for those entrepreneurs watching, right? And for myself, I will say, but what about though, Carissa, the whole thing of having multiple streams of income, or I have this other idea, for entrepreneurs, sometimes we're like squirrel, looking all over the place and we have some new bright idea that we want to get started right away. Does this process that we're going to go through help us go deep on that one thing? And like you said, master that one thing as opposed to trying to do several different things.
Yeah. So the way that I think of it is, if I was going to start a new initiative that had a different what or who, right? So it was not sort of slap related and it wasn't to James, my ideal client. Mm-hmm. For all intents and purposes, I'm starting a new business, right? I need different marketing copy. I need maybe different staff trained with different skill sets. I need a new website. I need to maybe speak at different conferences or be involved in different networking groups, because all of a sudden, everything I do changes. And as entrepreneurs, one of the things that I'm sort of fascinated by, because I, like all of you, have big ideas and ambition, and I see opportunity everywhere, and I want it. And as someone who is sort of like a recovering what's the right word? Squirrel. Recovering
squirrel chaser.
Exactly. What I experience and what we see over and over again is that by being pulled in so many directions, I dramatically decrease my success in any one thing. And when I made a decision about 6 years ago, which we could talk more about, where I resigned from all the boards I was on, I took 6 months where I focused just on my own self-care while working 20 hours a week instead of like 90, like I usually do. I shut down 2 side projects that I was building, and I just focused on Silver Lining. And what happened when I did that is all the success that I was hoping would happen in multiple ways actually came to be because I was more grounded and I was more focused and I was building something so intentionally. And I was also a better version of myself. I was focused. I was clear-headed. I was able to be a better leader of the thing I was building. And so that doesn't mean I don't think we innovate. If you learn the story of Silver Lining, we started as a consulting company. Then we became more of a training and speaking company. And now we're a tech company. We're a full software company. But so I've changed how we do what we do, which is where I think innovation is really healthy. But I haven't changed what we do, right? We've always been delivering slap to James on a global scale, but I constantly have been innovating how we do that. And so when I sort of talk to entrepreneurs who crave that innovation, which we should have, right? If we're doing the same thing forever, then something's gone wrong. It's this subtle difference of shifting and innovating what we do to actually going deeper and innovating how we do what we do so we can get better at it and more effective at it and scale it and find new ways to deliver it and all of that. And so that's how I think about it is, yes, we need to be creative. Yes, we need to be innovative. Yes, we want to, try new things. But if we place that energy in the right part of our business, we set ourselves up for really incredible, opportunity and success while still staying focused.
Mm-hmm. So could that be something then, say for a newer entrepreneur, that they make sure to say, if you're an entrepreneur and you're having, well, it's all relative, right? But let's just use the word mediocre success, or you know that you could go bigger or more, or whatever that word is, but you sort of feel like you've hit either a plateau or something there. Should one of the assessments be, dispersing your energy too much?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's interesting. We almost call it like the pre-step of slap, which we could probably spend hours talking about just in and of itself. But we call it mindset. And what we've seen in all the data that we have from all the businesses that we work with is that very rarely is the sort of critical factor to success just how good the plan is. The plan matters, obviously. But what really matters more than the plan is the mindset of the business owner, right? Are we clear? Are we grounded? Are we taking responsibility for our reality, good or bad? Are we taking care of ourselves, so that we can make good decisions and, do the hard work that's required to be a business owner? And most of the time when we see businesses ultimately shut down, I always say it's rarely because the business can't work. It's not even true that it's usually because the economy is bad. It's so rarely an external factor. It's almost always that the business owner ran out of time or ran out of money. Money meaning they just had no more resources. Time meaning, though, that they burnt out, they became unhealthy, their family was falling apart because they didn't manage themselves in a way that was sustainable. And so when we look at growing a business, there's the strategy piece of it, which we'll definitely talk about. But if we don't sort of have the who we are figured out, and we don't have a handle on keeping ourselves strong and clear-headed, we can have the best strategy in the world. We won't implement it well, and so it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to be quiet and listen now.
No, don't be quiet. It's more fun when we're talking to each other than when I'm just talking. So please keep talking. So SLAP statement: what we do, who we do it for, the skill we do it on, focus and discipline. I'm just going to change my camera. I realized I'm in a weird angle here. So then the next step is the ideal client, which you referenced. So the ideal client is based on this idea that the more specific we are about who our ideal client is, actually the more success we will have. And that feels counterintuitive. I'll give you guys an example. We worked with a large group of real estate agents for a while, and they all said, no, I can't have an ideal client. Anyone needs to buy a house. And we would say, okay, but if I go to your website and your website says, I'll sell or rent any house to anybody, no one's going to find themselves in that, right? No one's going to go to the website and be like, oh, this is my real estate agent. I definitely want to work with them. But if you are, I don't know, a 40-something, urban professional who is in the market to rent a great condo in a city, and you go to a website and you read a blog post about the city that you want to move to, and you hear about this real estate agent who is specialist in this type of property for this type of lifestyle, you're going to go there as the customer and say, oh, wait, they're literally perfect for me. And you're going to give your business to that real estate agent. And so it feels like it goes against the common sense, which would be the broader the range of customer I serve, the more business I will have. But instead, what we see is the more specific you are in who your ideal client is, the faster you can grow, because you might get less opportunity, but your conversion rates are way higher. And so at the end of the day, you're getting more business, more results for less time, which means your business is more profitable, which means you're more effective, which means you can go find more of that good business. And so again, it's one of the things we battle the most with the businesses that we work with, because they're like, no, I can help everyone.
Yeah,
exactly. I can help everyone. I'm sure you could. I could probably help lots of people. Yes, you could, but that doesn't mean it's effective. And that doesn't mean it's the best way to grow a business. And so when we're operating with a reality that we do have finite time and money as small business owners, right? No one's walking around with too much time and too much money. So if we don't have enough of those two things, then how do we protect those assets so that we don't burn out or we don't run out of money, so that we do keep our business alive? We protect those assets by being really focused, and being really clear about that ideal client is crucial. It's really, really important.
And one of the things I know you mentioned in your SLAP statement is that you sell SLAP to James, right? Is it James?
Yeah.
So how do we come up with, or what's the reasoning behind coming up with the sort of a persona for your ideal client?
Yeah. So the questions that, and if you're listening, I would encourage you to just start jotting notes down right now. And I know that Elaine has a worksheet that we've actually created that you guys can all have for free. And you can start to sort of sketch out your plan as we talk about these things. But the questions that we ask when we think about who your ideal client are a lot of demographic details. But what's most important is actually to step back and say, all right, how do we answer these questions? And so what we always say is, make a list of your 10 ideal clients. Now, you might say, well, I love this person because they're my best friend, Right. But if your best friend's not paying for your services, they're not your ideal client. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily the people that you like the most. It's your ideal client. And your ideal client pays for your services or your product. They value what you do. You know, you're meeting a real need that they have. They tell other people about you, and you actually enjoy working with them, right? They're a good client. They're a good customer. So as you think about those 4 criteria, you make a list of at least 10 of your customers that fit that criteria.
So
and
10
you can
actual people.
10 real people.
Yeah. Okay, 10 real people.
Yep. And then we're going to answer a series of questions about those 10 people. And what will happen is you will be surprised because there will be a lot of patterns. And you will, 9 times out of 10, we do this with businesses, and we do it thousands of times. The patterns are undeniable, first of all, number one. And number 2, they're a little bit different than you expect because, again, it's not your favorite client. It's your ideal client. Your ideal client is the person who pays you willingly, who values your services, who sends other people to you, right? So, you know, I've got lots of my favorite clients, but that doesn't mean that they're my ideal clients. And if I'm building a plan focused not on like having a good time, but focused on building a profitable, sustainable business, then that's important. The other thing that happens, I'll say this as you start building this, most business owners suffer, especially women, myself included. I'm preaching to my own choir here. We suffer from like this over generosity / not valuing ourselves / getting uncomfortable / having bad boundaries thing where we give a lot of our stuff away for free and or at such crazy discounts that you're essentially paying someone to do business with you. And so what happens a lot is that when we challenge you to do this exercise, it can be hard to think of 10 ideal clients based on the criteria I just gave. That's a wake-up call, right? That's a ding, 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 ding moment, because if you realize that you're giving lots of your work away at a high discount or for free, and then you're simultaneously wondering why your business is just growing at a mediocre rate or why you don't feel like you have enough revenue or money, those 2 things are directly connected, right? And so, you know, I don't believe that all business is good business. And I don't believe that all sort of generosity, I believe in being very mission oriented, but I also believe that running a business requires you to become profitable and sustainable. So there's a lot that sort of comes into this ideal client profile. I'll pause. I see you saying something there, Elaine.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, one of the things I thought was very interesting, or I guess maybe it just really resonated with me, is this idea of your ideal client versus your favorite client.
Yeah.
Which some of us might think is the same thing, right? That, well, my favorite person to work with is this person, but just looking at, so everyone, just so you know, I put the link to the workbook in our in the chat here, so you all can see it whenever you're watching this, or if you're watching this in real time. But the workbook has some of those questions there. But tell us, what are some of the tips that you have for knowing the difference between our favorite and our ideal client? Is it just that the favorite client might be the one that we're, like you said, paying essentially to work with us? Or what are some of the other things that we need to make sure we're making that? I think it's an important distinction. I never heard it before.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I try to be, my heart is big, so I have to always counter my heart with very logical thinking, because or else I have a hard time making distinctions like the one that you've just asked me to make. And so my heart always says my favorite clients are people who I love and I respect and have great energy, and we have fun when we're doing work together. And, you know, like, they're my favorite. My ideal clients, right, pay for our services. They take our advice and they implement it. So we have success stories because we work with them, right? They're sort of objectively engaged in the SLAP process and therefore find it helpful. And then they tell other people about it, which helps us grow our business, right? There's sometimes, I think, when we think of our favorite client, I think sometimes there's a lot of emotion involved in it. When we think about our ideal client, I think it's logically that they're good for our business, and we're also good for them, right? I mean, that's the other really important part of this. It's not that this is a selfish thing. It's that it's ideal because there's a very genuine mutual benefit, right? The thing that we can offer, they find so valuable that they are happy to pay for it. It is like a perfect match. Like, we're both getting what we need from each other. That is an ideal client. Whereas a favorite client might be someone that is a friend or a neighbor or just someone that you really like. And yes, they love your services, but maybe they wouldn't have paid for it if you didn't give them the crazy discount, and they're doing it because they love you, not because they need what you do. There's oftentimes a lot of blurriness in the favorite clients. It's emotion driven, but ideal client is like a solid mutual exchange of value. And that mutual exchange of value creates a sort of a grounding in the work, appreciation of the work, and again, and the financial reality that is necessary to build a profitable business. So that's how I think of them as different. And I'll say, I'm assuming that most of the people listening will be women. So I'll say this because as you mentioned, my ideal client is James, who's obviously male. So 50% of our customers are female. We work with men and women of all over the world, all different backgrounds. But the reason our ideal client is male, which is again, this could be a topic for another 7 hours. The reason our ideal client is male is two things. One is they often take our structure and implement it more readily. So they sort of are very, they're a little more linear in their thinking and say, okay, well, Slap says I should do these 3 things. I'm going to do these 3 things. And then they just go do these 3 things. And so the simplicity of it actually means that they're a lot more profitable for us. Whereas our female clients, I love them and we'll take them all forever, but they're a lot less profitable because we do a lot more processing. We talk about the things. There sometimes can be resistance to making the move. And so it's not that our female clients are bad clients. It's that they're not the ideal client. It's not that many of our female clients aren't my favorite clients. I love them. But when we think completely logically about ideal, then you look at some of these metrics around value exchange, profitability, et cetera.
And I think you're so right about, for me, I think about too, as far as an ideal client, I want to feel like I can help them too. It's not just, hopefully this is obvious. It's not just, can I make money off them? But even if it's like, I can help them a little bit, or some people I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I could just get my hands on her, I know I can do, these things to help that person or to support that person. And you just see, I always see the superstar in the person, you can help them get there to a goal that they already want, not projecting any of this. But so it's as important for me to be excited about helping them as opposed to, like you said, it's almost like someone that's just your favorite person or you like to spend time with, and yes, they'll pay you, but there's always some negotiation or even if it's not that, like you said, I think if you want the person to take action too, your ideal person, if it's, so. Great,
and it's interesting because to your point, it's a perfect point. We have a qualification criteria for customers that join up for Slap. And it's not like it's a big barrier, but one of them is that they're already in business generating revenue. And that's not because it's elitist. It's because we know we can help those people. The program is built for a business owner at that stage. So we have people who are in the pure startup phase who all the time want to sign up for Slap. And they're not our ideal client because we actually are not going to be as helpful to them as we could be to somebody else. So we don't take that business on because we're not the right tool for them. We're not what they need in this moment. And so a lot of it, I think the ideal client relationship is actually a very respectful relationship, right? It's about really owning these are the people that we are best suited to serve. Their need is something we know we can address. And we know that when we address it well, they're going to love paying for it because they're going to get great value. So everyone is winning because of our clarity. But it starts with us being clear, right? About what we deliver, about what value we can offer, and about who that value is best for and who it's going to have the biggest impact on. And really just owning that is, I think, a sort of a mature business decision, right? I say this very freely, we are not for everyone. But if you're an existing business owner that wants to grow, I don't know that there's many people better than us. And I don't say that with arrogance. I say that because we spent 15 years doing the same what for the same who on the same scale. And so we've gotten good at it. But that's what focus has allowed for, right? Is that sustained increase in expertise and an ability to do good work. When you're constantly pulled in a million directions, you never give yourself the opportunity to actually become really good at anything, right? You're never an expert in what you do because you're doing so many different things.
Right. Or you're just good at several things as opposed to being excellent or being the go-to person for this particular thing. It's so funny. This is helping me make a decision about some other projects and things happening. Like, okay, maybe we shouldn't do that right now. It's just like, but that's the thing. And I think too, and then definitely we can move on. I don't want to hold you up too much, but I think too, not having fear around not doing we talked about it in the terms of chasing a squirrel, but some of it too is it could be a great idea or something great to do, but maybe it's either a not now, or as you're saying, a not ever, because that's not your focus. It doesn't mean that thing wasn't a great idea or a great opportunity. But I know for, I've been in this place, I think I'm getting better, but a lot of entrepreneurs in general, but certainly women I've worked with, it's just like, well, what if that doesn't come along again? Or what if I let it go and it's going to, supposed to be this, or it's such a big opportunity, a great opportunity, etc. And it's sort of like going through this process of the questions that you're telling us to ask ourselves to decide, is this really your what and your who that you're doing it for, and that whole thing.
Totally. And just to address that, because my background's in psychology, and when I built
Oh, so
Slap, it's based in behavior change science. So everything you're saying is exactly correct. Because one of the things that I think is so interesting for us to think about as entrepreneurs, right? None of us would have taken this risk if we were not big picture thinkers that actually were optimistic and believed in opportunity. Because this is way too crazy a thing to do, right? To start a business if you sort of don't believe in possibility. You have that is in you if you've started a business, or else you never could have or would have. So if that's in us, what's interesting, and you hit it perfectly on the head, chasing everything and never saying no is fear-based. It's actually, it's coming from a place that says, what if there's not another opportunity? Or what if I can't come up with something better? Or what if it's a very limited point of view. It's a very small sort of view of the world to be so worried that if you don't say yes to everything, you'll miss out. And so I always am fascinated by this juxtaposition, because the thing that got us to do something so bold as start a business is this possibility thinking. And then yet the thing that I think often cripples business owners and is actually the demise of many businesses is this narrow sort of anxiety that there won't be enough. And so that's just, it's just really interesting for us to look at that, because what happens to us where we go from possibility to fear, right? And how do we see that really clearly so that we can not participate in it as much as we often do?
There, my picture is going in and out, I think, at least on my side. I don't know if you all can
I
see
just
that.
thought, yeah, I thought, oh,
I'm just like closing a few things here just to make sure I don't lose you. All right. So what's our next step in the process?
Okay, so next step is the 1-year financial goal. And this is the doozy. This is where people have lots to say, and there's lots of emotion. And so it's worth saying that, if there is one hot topic that every entrepreneur I've ever met in my entire life has, it is money. It is money. It is money. It is money. And so often there's either ego attached to money for someone who's made a bunch of money, or gotten one check in their bank account for one day and, gets big-headed about it. And, or there's embarrassment or shame or frustration around money. And so I always want to say that, like the steps of setting a 1-year goal are incredibly logical and unemotional and objective, but it's just always true that the conversation about this brings up a lot of emotion. And interestingly, one of the pieces of data that we have in our software is that business owners go through a sort of a guided process to build this plan inside of our software. And it takes about 3 hours to build the whole plan, and it's really interactive and it's really well supported. When they get to the 1-year goal section, almost without fail, people log out. It's like a hot potato. And it's not even like we're asking anything that crazy. It's literally like
I can't think about it right now. Or I gotta get my mind right before I focus on it. It's probably what it is.
Yes. 80, it's literally hot potato. They get to that page, 80% sign out. It's like, and it's so it's just, I mean, how funny is that we have. And I'm sure that for 99% of those 80%, it's not like they're sitting there thinking, oh my God, I've got too much shame, I've got to log out. It's just this innate reaction, right? Like, oh, getting out of here.
Right.
So the things that we should be able to talk about as business owners, right? The things that we want to be able to talk about logically are, number one, our personal expenses. You can't build clear financial goals for your business if you don't know how much you need for that business to contribute to your personal life. So if you are the president of your company, whether you are a 1-person company or a 100-person company, right? Your company has to be able to afford to pay the president's salary, and that's you. So you've got to know sort of what is your personal expenses. That's the president's salary. That, we've got to build businesses that can pay the president's salary. So that's the first step. Once we've got that number figured out, then we have to understand the business expenses, right? What does it actually cost to run this business? Once you add up your president's salary and your business expenses, that gives you your break-even number. That tells you the minimum amount of money that you have to make in order to sort of cover your expenses. 9 times out of 10, when you just sit and tell the truth, that number is higher than you want it to be, right? That number is a bigger number than you are making or than you are thinking about. And so I always say, like, the truth will set us free. It's not fun to hear the truth, but the truth will set us free, because when you have that number in front of you, you only have 2 choices, right? Well, I guess technically you have 3. So the first choice is ignore it, put your head in the sand, and live a life of stress, right? Not have money to pay your bills, always be juggling. So I mean, that is a choice. I guess that's a choice, an ideal choice. The choices I would prefer we make are, when we look at that number, we either need to be very conscious about cutting our expenses, but doing that on purpose, just being, very clear. Well, I can't make that much, so I've got to bring my expenses down. Or we've got to increase our revenue. We've got to get very clear and very focused and set very clear sales goals around how we can increase our revenue. And when we realize with that level of clarity that that's our choices, then things like understanding who our ideal client is becomes so much more valuable. Because if we know that to sustain the break-even number we have, we've got to sell X number of this and X number of that and X number of that, right? We got to get serious about, well, what's our price point? Is it high enough? Is it sort of enough for every sale that we can cover our expenses and that it's helping us hit to our financial goals? So we look at what we sell. We innovate what we sell to add new, product lines and new variations of doing what we do. We innovate and we expand and think about our pricing. And we ultimately think about how we're going to generate more sales. We get intentional about finding that ideal client. And all of a sudden, when you look at this all really logically, all of those, favorite clients, or all those favors you're doing, or all those boards you're sitting on, or all those volunteer hours you do, or all those free giveaways you do, or all those things that you're doing, thinking that you're being generous and kind, and you are, but it's at the risk of being able to pay your bills, right? It's at the risk of being able to cover your break-even number. And now, instead of you having to decide if you want to volunteer or not, or if you want to be on that board or not, or if you want to get that thing around or not, right? Instead of every single decision being about what you think you should do, you can make decisions in a much more objective way. Okay, in order to pay my bills, right? In order to cover my break-even expenses, I have to make this many sales. In order to make this many sales, right, I've got to talk to this many people. If in order for me to, talk to this many people, I've got to talk to this many people. All of a sudden there's a formula to how you get to the outcome. And when you realize how much money and time it actually takes to accomplish your financial goals, then you've got the wake-up call that you don't have that much time and money left over. And now you've got a smaller budget for your giveaway budget. So I'm a very big believer in giving away, helping others, but I have a giveaway budget and it's built into my whole life budget, right? I know how much money I have to generate in my revenue, in my business to run my business. I know my president's salary. I know how much time I have to spend on my business with my family. I've got a giveaway budget. I'm very intentional about how I prioritize where I spend my time and money in order to accomplish what I have to generate to sort of, cover my expenses, run my business. And it's when you get to that level of intentionality that you start to succeed. Because without that level of clarity, it's a little bit like you're just throwing, stuff out into the world and sort of thinking, oh, well, maybe that will work. But if you don't know where you're going and you can't name what you're trying to accomplish and you don't have a clear path to get there, you have no idea if you're on track or off track. When all those things are crystal clear, though, your chance of actually accomplishing them goes up 80% just for having the clarity, because all of a sudden you can make much better decisions on a minute-by-minute basis.
And one of the things, that's great. One of the things that you mentioned, I want to make sure people catch, that I always remind myself of is, you mentioned, in order to make this amount of money, I have to sell this many of whatever it is.
Yep.
And that means talking to this many people. And then, to closing this many people, but then talking to this many people. So just so everyone realizes, if you're maybe just starting out in your business, or as a reminder, if you want to sell 10, that might mean you have to talk to 30 people, right? Unless you have some wicked rate of 100% conversion, then you're a superstar. You don't need us. You might as well log off now, right?
Exactly.
But for the most part, it's sort of, I remember doing an interview with someone on my podcast. This was years ago, and it's like one of those things, it makes sense, but she was just saying a lot of us aren't aware of what our personal conversion rates are, especially if you're in a service-based business. I think obviously some other things might be automated, but if you have to have conversations with people in any part of the process in order to get them to take a look at your product or get a proposal or whatever it is, how many of those conversations are you keeping track of? Usually how many of those conversations you have to have before someone says yes? And that will give you a sense of how many conversations you need to have in order to get to the number of closes you want, in order to then have all the other things that you mentioned. So
that's right. And the story that I always tell is that people, when they give me a little bit of pushback on the idea of the ideal client and the sales goals, I always say, okay, imagine I'm in a room of 100 people, right? And I haven't identified how many sales I have to make or who my ideal client is. So I'm just there networking, right? Like everyone, I'm networking. So I walk around the room. I have no way to assess who in that room could be a potential client for me. So I decide that I'm going to go for coffee with everyone in the room. So I go for 100 coffees. Now that costs me $500, let's say $5 a coffee.
Right.
And it costs me probably 200 hours by the time I travel and go to the coffee and come back and whatever. So I spent $500 and 200 hours. And let's say 10 of them are my ideal client, and I can close 50%. So I get 5 new customers out of it. If I had gone to the exact same networking event and I knew walking in that my ideal client had this profile and this is who I know I sell to and this is what I do best, I probably could have identified just in the room which at least 20 were closest to my ideal client. I probably would have gone for 20 coffees, still met the same 10 ideal clients, still converted 5%, ended up with 5 businesses, right? 5 new customers. But instead of spending $500 and 200 hours, I would have spent $100, right? And like 20 hours or whatever it is. So the whole idea about understanding all of this is that you're trying to decrease the amount of time and money you're wasting at sort of the top of the funnel so that your conversion rates do get better. That is literally just increasing money to your bottom line instantly, right? You could go to all of those coffee meetings to get the same number of customers, where you could go to a fraction and get the same number of customers, because all those people who weren't your ideal client were never going to buy from you. So you were just going to 95 coffees for no good reason. So that's the power of this, is if you're really intentional, people can find you better, but you can find them better. And you dramatically decrease the time and money you're spending to find new customers.
One of the questions my coach always, well, she doesn't ask me anymore because now I think I got it in my head. But she used to ask, if I say, oh, this event is coming up, or I want to go to this event, or whatever it is, she would always ask me, are your ideal clients there? Do you think you can meet your ideal, so sort of doing the assessment. So not to say you shouldn't go if you're going for some other reason, if you do just want to get out and, whatever the other reasons are. But if you're going thinking about business, do an assessment of, or even a speaking engagement, if you're invited to come somewhere and do those things, thinking about giving some thought to, is this my ideal audience, a customer? Would I be happy about serving them? Could they get something from me? So those are questions I ask myself now when it comes to, business related events, not hang out with friends or anything.
No, totally.
But,
it's an important, as entrepreneurs, it's hard to find that distinction, right? So I always say that I have 2 levels of filter. My first filter is as, the CEO of Silver Lining. So I get an opportunity and I ask myself, okay, will James be there? Can I sell slaps? Is it global in scale? Yes or no? Great. If it's yes to all 3, or speaking engagement is another good example, right? If I get asked to speak, okay, can I talk about slap? Will James be there as a global in scale? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, yes, I'll do it. I'll figure it out, right? If the answer is not yes to those 3 things, then it's not a good business decision. So as the CEO of Silver Lining, I'm not being responsible if I say yes. So I have to say no as a CEO. So then I always say, okay, I'm taking my business hat off. Now I'm just becoming a human being. Carissa Reiniger. Hey, Carissa, do you want to do that thing? Does that seem fun to you? And then if I do, I think, okay, well, do I have enough time in my personal budget for that? Is that a priority over this other thing I want
in my personal budget? Very good. Gotcha.
Yes. And so I always sort of spend my time evaluating opportunities first with my business hat on through my slap statement. Will James be there? Can I talk about slap? Is it global in scale? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, that is a good decision for me, the CEO, to do. No, it's not a good business decision. Okay, as a human, do I want to do it? Yes, I do. Okay, do I have time in my budget? I don't have time in my time budget. Okay, well then do I want to do this more than I want to do something else? Yes or no, right? Am I willing to say no to something else to do this? And so it shifts from this idea that we're always just making one-off decisions, right? Should I do this? well, I don't know. How could any of us answer, should I do this? I mean, that's you can never answer that question.
Right.
But when you have these filters to apply a basic sort of processing through, getting to yeses and nos and knowing when to say yes and when to say no actually becomes really easy. And I'm like a chronic yeser. I used to say yes to everything. And then I like burnt myself out and, I did all the things. And I'm a great knower now, but I can do, but I can do it with no guilt because I know that I've got really clear priorities. And when I protect my priorities, I'm more effective for my family, my company, my staff, my customers. I can have a better impact in the world because I'm clear. So, I've kind of gone full circle on sort of going from yeser to knower because now I realize if I don't protect my time, it's my most critical asset. And if I'm being loose with my time, it's actually a lot more dangerous than being loose with my money, right? That is sort of make it or break it stuff. And so,
because you can make some money back, but you can't make some time back.
That's right. Yeah. One of my business advisors always says, time's the great equalizer. We all have 24 hours a day, right? For as long as we're on this earth and we're healthy, we all have 24 hours a day. So you can't use that as an excuse, right? The most successful people have the exact same amount of time, as the lesser successful people. So it's just about how they use that time. And I've never met a highly successful entrepreneur who is not unbelievably rigorous around their time. I mean, just relentless about how they manage their schedule.
I think too, like you said, they'll help you better make the decision yes or no. But I think also to help you feel better about whatever decision that yes or no. So the guilt, I think, can come on both sides. I know I've been in situations like, why did I say yes to this? And even if it has nothing to do with the other person or the event or anything like that, it's more so I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I'm not, I realize it's not the right audience or whatever it is, but it's because I said yes without doing that assessment as you talked about and looking at could this be a yes? Could this be a no? What's the ramifications of whichever choice, consequence of whichever choice I make? So you want to feel good about whatever decision it is.
And I think the language you're using is really good, right? But there are ramifications to doing things that are not in alignment with your goals. I mean, there just are. The ramifications are burnout, are missing out on things that matter with your family, are not hitting your financial goals, they're getting sick. I mean, it's not that this is sort of inconsequential. There are, and I was doing all those things. I mean, I had all of those mistakes going. And so there are ramifications to not being clear and not being, clear enough that when to say no. And I just think that that's really important. One just little tip I can offer, every month I do an I will day, I call it. And so I have a notebook, it's right here. Every single time I say the words I will, I've trained myself, I write them down. So, this is like my book of all the I wills I've ever said to people. Yeah. So every time I say I will, and then as I get the I wills done, I highlight them off my list. Once a month, I sit with this book and I look at all the times I said I will that I haven't gotten done yet, right? I haven't been able to finish it yet. And I have to look at that honestly and say, okay, am I overcommitting myself, right? Am I not doing what I need to do? And on those I will days, I have one of three options. I either have to reprioritize and get it done because I said I would. I have to delegate it. So I have to find someone on my staff I can hand it to or somebody else that can do it. Or I have to apologize. I have to call the person and say, hey, Elaine, remember when I said I was going to do that thing? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I wasn't being clear in my thinking. I can't. And you make enough of those phone calls and they're really embarrassing and you stop saying yes so much because
exactly. You want to save yourself that agony.
Go to my I will day and make all these phone calls. And so I just think though, but being accountable to when we say we will, and then recognizing that, we need to evaluate what we're saying I will to. But I learn a lot on those I will days about my patterns of where I'm saying yes too much, where I'm uncomfortable, where I don't know what to do, where I'm getting lazy or unfocused. And doing that monthly means I can keep getting it back on track before sort of it gets too far out of control.
Makes sense. Excellent. All right. What's the next step?
Okay, so the last step is the action plan. And the action plan is essentially your business development, sales, marketing. It's about how you're going to go out into the world to find your ideal client, in order to hit your goal. And the big thing about this is really, I'd say there's three key things to think about. Number one is we call this your action plan, and we talk about how you're going to connect with your ideal client, not market and not sell. One of the things that I think is true, and I think 2020 has made this even more true, people are sick of being sold to. People are sick of being marketed to. They want to feel connected to you. People buy because of feelings, because of value, because of relationship, because they trust you. And so if you could essentially say, I'm never going to market again, I am never going to sell again, but I am going to figure out where my ideal client is, and I am going to connect with them. I'm going to find ways to add value to their lives. I'm going to find ways to be in, relationship with them. I'm going to connect with them. So we offer all sorts of different connecting strategies, things like events and media and referrals and partnerships, all the regular things. But our approach to it is a lot different, right? It's not about sort of marketing in a way that feels inauthentic, but rather it's about knowing who your ideal client is so deeply that you know where they are, you know what matters to them, and you can find them and connect with them. So that's the first thing. It's not about marketing. It's not about selling. It's about connecting. The second thing when you're building your action plan is that it's a year-long plan, right? So it's about how you're going to hit your 1-year goals. But a year is a long time, and things can get lost and feel long. So we are a big believer in taking your 1 year and breaking it into 4 quarters, and almost thinking like you're running four campaigns a year. So, Q1, I'm going to focus on media. I'm going to use media to connect with my ideal client. Q2, I'll use events, and I'll find all these different ways to go to events and host events and partner with events to connect with my ideal client. Q3, I'll do referrals. I'll do this huge referral campaign. I'll ask 100 people to give me a referral to my ideal client. I'll use that to find my ideal client. And so one of the things that we've learned in behavior change science really emphasizes this, is that if we sort of give ourselves too long of a stretch, we don't have any motivation. It's not urgent enough. But if we're unrealistic and we do too much at once, then we essentially fail, because no human can do 27 things at once. So this idea of taking a 1-year plan, very clear, this is my 1-year goal, but translating that into 4 quarterly goals, and then 4 campaigns, 4 connecting strategies that you focus on, and you do one thing at a time, but you do 4 things a year. That formula allows you to have variety in how you connect, but focus as you do the connecting. So that's the second big thing in a connecting, in an action plan. And then the third and last thing I'll say is that it's really important that you have a very detailed plan, right? So saying, I'm going to send a press release will never get done, right? Saying, okay, in order to send a press release, I'm going to do this research, write the first draft, have someone look at it, write the second draft, do this, do that. The psychology again says if something feels overwhelming or big, or like it's not easy to activate and move into action, we don't ever start. And if we never start, we can never finish. So the trick to getting a lot done in terms of going out to find your ideal client and connect with them is to take your ideas and break them down into really concrete small steps, and literally just tackle a couple steps a day. I have seen every business I've seen grow well and in a sustainable way. They haven't had one big magical moment, right? They didn't go to a boot camp and instantly make $100 million, or they didn't launch one thing and instantly find all their customers. They very, very consistently did the right behavior, the right actions, day after day after day after day. And all of those actions added up to the success that they wanted to. And so we see in the data of our customers all the time, the people who are sort of doing small, good behavior on a regular basis outpace and outwin and outsell the businesses that are doing big things, right? And then sort of not delivering or getting overwhelmed. So small, clear actions broken out day to day, added up quarter by quarter into the year. It is amazing what any human being can accomplish.
And why is the action plan as important or more important, or you let us know, than the business plan, or even just different than your
Yeah.
business plan? We all think, well, if I'm starting a business or I have a business, I need to come up with a business plan, or I need to revise the business plan. But why is having the action plan so important too?
So my theory is that the world is changing now so fast. Everything moves so quickly, right? If I was to sit here and build a 5-year business plan, I would be guessing at best, lying at worst, right? I don't
Right.
know. The world's going
I
to change
know, especially you're so
so
right.
much. I want,
The
and it's
business
this year in particular, right? So I just think that the questions that a business plan asked of us don't align with the way the world now works.
is. Mhm.
I think that like that level of long-term planning and then trying to build financial, I mean, I actually don't think it's relevant anymore is what I would say. What I do think is true though, right? So in SLAP, in the action plan, right? I've been in business for 15 years. I've never changed my who or my what, right? So there are things you do need to put in this, put stakes in the ground and hold on, right? So you have your what, you have your who, you have your scale. I mean, those are things that are there forever. But I really think that on an annual basis, building a clear action plan where you re-review, your finances and your action plan, and you set financial goals and you build your action plan, to me, operating in that sort of steadfastness in your what and who, but then in an annualized review of sort of how you're going to sell it and how you're going to find your customers to make the sales, matches the pace of the way the world works now.
And is it important to be able to maybe each quarter even go in and just look at where you are, and if say what you did last quarter worked, then you want to either continue it or go on to the next thing. And so in other words, can it be agile or should it be agile and able to be tweaked some as you go?
Yeah. So the number one rule of SLAP is actions equal results, right? So whatever your results are the result of your actions. Like it or not, that's the truth. There's
Mm.
no flexibility in
For
that.
better or for worse?
Yeah, exactly. And oftentimes for worse, right? I mean,
Right.
that's not
Right.
so if you don't like the results you have, right? Our knee-jerk reaction is to go change the results. Oh, well, I wanted to make 5 sales, but I'll just do 2 because that's all I did. No, you said you wanted to do 5
Right.
sales. So
That's
if
right.
you if you've only made 2, you don't change the goal. You go change your actions. Okay, well, what worked? What did you
Uh,
do to get the 2 sales? What didn't you do? What did you do that didn't get you any sales? Okay, and the idea of behavior change science, right, is that we constantly optimize our actions in order to hit our goals. So in the world of SLAP, businesses log into the software sometimes every day. We ask them to log in at least once a week, and there's 3 key habits that we want to instill. Number 1, take action, right? Keep doing those small steps every day. Number 2, get results, close the sales, nurture the deals, turn it into sales. But then the third SLAP habit, which is critical, which you've perfectly thought of, is pause and reflect, which is taking time out of your week. We recommend 15 minutes a week, 1 hour a month, and 2 hours a quarter to pause and reflect. You pause the insanity, turn off your phone, turn off everything, and reflect. Okay, these are all the actions that I took. These are the results that I got. What do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of? What do I have to change? You never change the goal, but you
mm.
do constantly optimize the action plan, because the theory would be, and we see this all the time, people that have been using SLAP for multiple years, they're ninjas now. I mean, they know what actions get them the results, and they're doing those actions and they're not doing anything else, and they're able to grow their business quicker. And but it's not that they're more smart, it's that they're better trained. They took the
Mhm.
time to pause and reflect. They learned what actions equal results. And so they did the work and they're getting the reward, which is what behavior change science tells us is possible. If any of us do the work, any of us can get the reward. Success is not a myth and it's not a mystery. It's action over a period of time, sustained and supported. That's how you get results. And so, but yeah, that pause and reflect piece is critical, because you can set goals on January 1st, be busy until December 31st, and never have those two things connect to each other, right? The game
Mhm.
is to be so conscious that you're directly attaching your activity to your results and constantly finding where your activity is driving results and then continuing to optimize your activity.
Excellent, Carissa. So good. I love this. This is fantastic. Everyone, again, I have the notes in the workbook in our comments here. You'll be able to see it. There's a link there so you can see it on screen. Copy that, go to there, and then you'll be able to download the workbook that has all this information with it. So you can watch it again, actually, and go through. Could they do that?
Yes.
Go through the workbook as you're watching and hearing what we're talking about. So you can actually, I know for me, sometimes seeing it helps me be able to think it through, and then hearing I always even tell my trainer that, okay, show me, no, tell me, show me, and then let me try it.
I
It's
love
like,
that.
tell
I
me,
think
show me, and
that
then
makes
let me
more,
try it. Like,
that's
tell me,
how
what
I
am I
like to
supposed to
work.
feel? Where is this supposed to? Okay, I'm supposed to, and now show me how to do. Okay, now let me try it. So
I love that.
that's helpful. And then tell everyone how they can get in touch with you or find out more about Slap and the software, how it all works, and how I'll make
Yeah.
sure again we have links to everything.
Okay. So you can just go to smallbizsilverlining.com. So like smallbizsilverlining.com.
Mhm.
On that page, there's a COVID-19 page. Our program is usually $300 a month, and that $300 includes the software to build and manage your plan. That software helps you with everything we've talked about. It helps you build the right plan. It recommends what actions to take, and it actually shows you your data. So it shows you the relationship between your actions and your results, helps you try new activities. It recommends campaigns to try. It's templated all those action items. So it's really comprehensive. And then included with the software is our Slap manager team, which is like your personal trainer. They're calling you and texting you and pushing you and prodding you and trying to make sure you do the right behavior. And then you get matched to a Slap expert, which is someone who's built a multi-million-dollar business, and you get a one-on-one strategy. We call with them every month. And then you get connected to all the other business owners, and there's lots of contests and gamification and prizes and all sorts of stuff. So usually that's all $300 a month. In order to try to help as many small businesses as possible, we've made it pay what you can. So if you've been hit by the reality of COVID and you just don't have that much money, which we get, we have businesses paying everything from $5 a month to the full $300 a month. And so it's no questions asked. It's full of dignity. And it's a genuine offer. So if having Slap would be helpful to you guys to focus on generating revenue, especially as we're trying to all get through this year, it's available to all of you. We're happy to help. If that's not what you need, you can live chat with us. You can email us. All the information's on the website. If you tell us what you need, we'll do our best to find someone that can give you what you need. If we're not right for you.
And that's smallbusinesssilverlining.com.
Small biz,
Small biz.
BIZ/C, depending on what country you're in. Smallbizsilverlining.com.
Small Biz Silver. All right. I will make sure. Thank you. That is so awesome. And I think for everyone, all the things that you mentioned, but especially during this difficult is the only word I can think of, difficult time, the clarity piece, I feel like for me and my business has been more important than ever because there's so much noise I feel in the world, and just for entrepreneurs and people trying to figure it out. I know people losing their businesses. I know people who are thriving and feeling guilty about thriving. It's just
Totally.
all these things are going on. So I feel like the clarity and the especially about time and those kind of things right now, and resources certainly, but time too, have been foremost in my mind as well. But now I know why, maybe after hearing you talk about it. But it's just sort of like things feel like I really want to make sure I'm spending my time on the things that really matter for my business, so I can spend time doing some of the other things that really matter to me personally. And India says here, thanks so much, Carissa and Elaine. This is awesome. Thank you, India, for
Thanks, India.
watching. Yay. So if anyone else again has questions, you can pop them in there, even though we're going to let Carissa go to bed now or wake up.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what time it's like 4, I guess almost 5 in the morning there. Oh my goodness. But we appreciate you so much. Is there anything else you want to share with everyone before you go? And I'll make sure links and stuff are in there.
The only thing I would say, as you were just talking, it made me think that, be wary of anyone who is telling you what to do right now, right? Like if someone's telling you like, this is how your business is going to succeed, or this is the right strategy for your business, you know what you need to do. I think a framework like Slap or someone else's framework is helpful to help you get to that clarity. But again, there's no right answer right now, right? I think people are sort of desperately saying like, what's the way to get my business through this? And I really believe the way to get your business through this is to be honest about what you want, to be totally clear about what it is you do and who you do it for, to actually get more focused and more disciplined, because we are living in a more complicated time and your resources probably are more thin. And I believe so firmly that we will get through this, that we can get through this. But it's not because there's going to be some magic wand that happens, or because someone's going to give you this perfect business plan that all of a sudden will be perfect. It's going to come down to each of our own, clarity, resilience, determination, and it's inside of us. And so if you're struggling like so many are right now, and if it's hard like it is for all of us, the biggest thing I would just say is trust yourself. You have what you need inside of you. Something like Slap or something like Elaine does, or something like what so many other people do. can help you get the clarity that you need. But the strength will come from inside. It's not about the economy. It's not about the market. It's not about the government. It's not about the next loan you may or may not get. It really does come down to each of us individually, sort of pulling out, who we're meant to be in this moment, and doing what is best for us, our businesses, our teams, our families, because that's the beauty of being a business owner, right? That it is our thing. It's true to who we are. And I want people to remember that it is a really hard year. But I've seen the most amazing creativity and resilience from business owners and contribution to making the world better. And I just know that the people who are getting through this are the ones who are strong inside and operating from that place.
Beautiful. Carissa, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you were able to do this with us and share. And everyone, again, the workbook is there. We'll make sure you have the resources. But I know I'm going to go back and listen to this again and just go through the workbook myself, because it's such great information. I just appreciate the work that you're doing to help small businesses all around the world. You're in Australia right now, so all around the world, from all around the world.
Around the world right
Literally,
now.
exactly, right this minute. Thank you so much. Hold on just a second.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.